Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On It. I'm your boy, R.W. Coolins. First and foremost, giving honor to God who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. Oh, it's a good morning, y'all. I woke up on this side of the living. Good morning to everybody. Good morning. Hope everybody's having a good morning. Man, I got a good show for you. May not be as long as the other shows, but I got a good one for you. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this here shortly. Let's go ahead. And I guess good morning's coming in. Russell Jenkins, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. Hope everything's good with you, my brother. Hope everything's good with you. Let's go ahead and get in this. Can I vote? www.nass.org. Can I vote? www.nass.org. Can I vote? We've been talking about this for a while now. November's around the corner. So we need to get in, make sure you know where, how you registered, if you're registered and all that. There's another thing that I found out yesterday called Vet the Vote. For all veterans out there, there's a website, Vet the Vote. You can Google it, search it. Vet the Vote does the same thing as nass.org, but it also gives you the opportunity as a vet to be a poll worker, to get involved in the process and what's going on. I signed up. One of my buddies signed up. You know, us veterans got to do what we got to do to get out there and be at the polls. Might have to watch what's going on at the polls this year. You know what I'm saying? Vet the Vote, as well as NASS, National Association Secretary of State.org. Can I vote? Go there, go to those two websites, this one, as well as Vet the Vote. Get in there. Hey, let's get involved in these processes. I had a conversation with someone yesterday about how we aren't involved in a lot of these processes, but we get upset when the processes don't work our way. Jury duty, voting, all these different things. We got to get better of being involved in our communities, as far as what's going on around us, and be participants, not just observers. We need to be participants, not just observers, in this process of what we call the political process and anything else that's going on in your local communities. I don't care if it's your HOA association, the school board meetings, all those things. We need to be more involved. So when these things come up, we're not at the 59th hour talking about, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. Just something I want to put out there this morning. James Battle, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. And just wanted to put that out there before we get started this morning. So without further ado, I think it's time to get into this. You know what? I'm not going to go into breaking news this morning. We're just going to go ahead and roll with it. We're going to roll with it this morning because here's the thing. And a lot of the show this morning, this is unscripted this morning. This is an unscripted show. You know, we don't need to do breaking news. We know what's going on and everything. But there's two main things that I want to touch on this morning that I think we need to really pay attention to and be aware of. Because there's a lot of things going on, because it's political season, let's be honest. It's political season, a lot of things going on. Lisa Diane, good morning. Thank you for tuning in. There's a lot of things going on that we blow off, that we really need to start paying more attention to. We need to be more involved in different things like that. Kevin Banks, my brother, good morning. Appreciate you, bro. But as I said about the voting, we need to participate, not observe. That is one of the biggest, I think, in my opinion, one of the biggest downfalls in our community. As a community, we sit back and watch rather than getting our hands dirty and getting in the fight. I'm saying it again, we sit back and watch the outcomes of these things, but we're hesitant to get involved in the things that we should get involved in. Case in point, y'all have heard everything has been over the news lately. Two things have highlighted the news with this election coming up in November. And the two main things are Project 2025 and Joe Biden's health. Project 2025 and Joe Biden's health. Now, I'm not telling you which one you should look at as being most important, but I'm going to give you information to let you know to make your own decision. Because as I always said since I made this show, I'm not here to change your mind or dictate how you think. My job when I come on here on Saturday mornings is to make you think differently, or to make you look at things a little differently, and then you make your own conclusions, draw your own conclusions. But we talk about Project 2025. And there's a lot of stuff been going on. Oh, he didn't know. Donald Trump didn't know about it. He did know about it. I reported about it a little bit last week and everything. But I found this article this week. And it's a story by Jordan Lyles. And I can't remember what publication this was from. But it says it's a fact check. So they did a fact check because, there's a lot of things going out there. Donald Trump didn't put his stamp of approval on Project 2025, and Donald Trump came out and he made that statement, and I think I still have it in here. Where'd it go? I don't see it right away, but I know I got it down here somewhere, what he said. But anyway, going into that, he's denied it. He said he don't, basically paraphrasing, he don't know who these people are. He's never met them. Their mandate has nothing to do with it. I don't agree with some of the things, but I hope it works out for him. The denial part of it, right? But in this article, it's titled Fact Check. Video from 2022 shows Trump praising Project 2025's colossal mandate at a Heritage Foundation event. Now, I showed you where he was speaking to the Heritage Foundation last week. It was a still photo. But this is from 2022, and the claim is this. A video captured on April 21st of 2022 shows former U.S. President Donald Trump praising the formation of plans for Project 2025 at an event for the initiative's leaders, the Heritage Foundation. And this is a fact check, and they say it's true. An online rumor claims video of former U.S. President Donald Trump attending an event for the conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation, in Amelia Island, Florida, on April 21st, 2022, shows him praising the foundation's plans for its just announced 2025 presidential transition project, commonly known in the months leading up to the 2024 presidential election as Project 2025. This rumor was true. We contacted the Trump campaign by email to ask about the resurfaced comments from April of 2022, and we'll update this story if we receive a statement in response. Now, stop right there. So now there's a video, and I'm going to get into this a little later, because there's a video of Donald Trump at the Heritage Foundation in 2022, and it was out there for a long time. However, YouTube removed the original Heritage Foundation video. And it states, in our research, we noted that in May of 2022, YouTube removed the original live video of Trump's speech broadcast on the Heritage Foundation's channel. Page archives show the original video received at least around 537,000 views before it was removed. The link originally hosted the video now reads, "This video has been removed for violating YouTube's community guidelines." In a May 9th, 2022 article, scolding Big Tech, the Heritage Foundation reported YouTube said it removed the video because it violated policies pertaining to election misinformation. For further reading, we previously published the article, The Facts About Project 2025, the pro-Trump proposal to reshape America. We also reported on a rumor claiming Trump's name appears in Project 2025's playbook 312 times. Let me repeat that. Donald Trump said he did not know anything about Project 2025. But in Project 2025, his name appears 312 times in the 900-page document of Project 2025. These are facts that are trying to be swept under the rug because he's trying to distance himself, and they're thinking it's going to make a difference in the election coming up, depending on who you are, depending on how you vote. Now, as I always tell you, I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I'm just telling you to get the information you need to make a conscious vote when you go to the polls. That's it. I want you to be conscious of who you're voting for and the policies they're looking to implement before you get to the polls. Not just going in there and pulling the poll because you're Democrat or Republican or you like this guy or the criteria of he's a racist and he's not a racist, or he's too old and he's not too old, and all the narratives that you've heard. I want you to be truly informed and go to the polls fact-based. Now, mind you, some people are going to vote their interests only because they like certain people. I got that. I got that. But for me and mine, and I hope you and yours, you're going to do your research. You're going to do your fact checks, and you're going to find out exactly what the agendas are for each one of these candidates before you just go in and do all blue and do all red. Know the information you need to know. So also in this article, it says Project 2025 refers to a conservative coalition's policy plan for a future Republican U.S. presidential administration. The Harris Foundation is leading the initiative. And this article came from Snopes, Snopes. And there's fear that the initiative's proposed actions are precursors to authoritarianism. Trying to be a dictator, that type thing. I can't get that word out. It's too long. Y'all bear with me. We're in Frederick County public school system. Shout out, Freddie. Further, the plan proposes recommendations to reverse protections for LGBTQ plus people, limit abortion access, and stop federal efforts to mitigate climate change. In addition, many authors of Mandate for Leadership, The Conservative Promise, the 2023 book outlining Project 2025's policy proposals, have connections to Trump. The Heritage Foundation's website formally announced Project 2025, again, then mainly referenced as the 2025 Presidential Transition Project, on April 14th, 2022, exactly 1 week before Trump's speech at the Heritage Foundation event. Now read all that, and I know some of this I'm rehashing from other times that we've talked about Project 2025, but I wanted to grow roots. I wanted to grow roots and start growing with the mindset that you don't need to read all 900 pages. You just need to be aware, and you need to get in there and look for certain things. Like this week, I put a post up, and I wish I had it in front of me. I can probably pull it up. But it dealt with veteran benefits that 2025 is talking about taking away. And there was a lot of people online, of course, a lot of people online that were looking at it and saying it was fake. But it is actually in the document, Project 2025. But the post I put up, it says Project 2025 veteran cuts. Eliminate concurrent receipt of retirement pay and disability compensation for veterans. And they say it'll save $160 million. Now, eliminate concurrent receipt of retirement pay and disability compensation for veterans. And saying if you retire and you have a disability and they're paying you disability for your disability through the VA, what they're trying to propose is that if you're receiving a retirement and a disability, you're going to eliminate it. You get one or the other. No ifs, no ands, no buts. So they're trying to eliminate your disability. You got to pick one or choose one. Either you get the retirement pay or you get the disability pay, but you can't have both. That's what I'm reading here. $160 million is what they say you're going to save. Veterans benefits and services. In enrollment in VA medical care for veterans in priority groups 7 and 8. That means if you're in group 7 and 8 of as far as a priority, as far as healthcare through the VA, they want to eliminate you. And what they're looking at is the fact that if you're in group 7 and 8, that your disability that you're claiming is very minimal. It could be a 10% rating for a knee or 5% rating for your foot or whatever the rating is. In that 7 to 8 tier means you have the lowest rating or the lowest disability of any person that's claimed disability through the VA, and they want to eliminate enrollment in VA medical care as a whole for anyone in those 2 tiers. They're saying it's going to save $69 million. Narrow eligibility for veterans' disability by excluding disabilities unrelated to military duties. Now, this gets kind of sketchy because they're saying not related to military duties, but all of this is considered service connected. If you have a disability, it's considered service connected. However, they're saying that if it's not, maybe from being in a war zone or being something that you're doing your job, because, there's a lot of people that put claims in that have hurt themselves while they were on active duty, but it wasn't in the line of them doing their job. So they want to narrow the eligibility for veterans. But what they're not realizing, and this is something that I look at, there's a lot of people that got a lot of injuries because of PT, because you got to be conditioned, maybe plantar fasciitis, anything like that from running. I used to run 5 miles every day. There's certain things with my knees, my hips that were impacted because of me staying in shape in order for me to be in the military, but I was not injured in a war zone or anything like that. Those are the things that they're trying to eliminate, is people putting claims in that didn't relate specifically to being in a war zone or being hurt in a war zone or supporting a conflict or anything like that. Put a 10-year time limit on initial applications for disability compensation for veterans. If you don't put a claim in within 10 years of leaving the service, nothing. They want to eliminate that, because what they're looking at is, if you've, okay, case in point, there's something that came out not that long ago called the PACT Act, I think it was. Y'all bear with me because I'm trying to remember this stuff off the top of my head. I didn't write all this down today, but I think it's called the PACT Act. And in the PACT Act, this actually covered people that were in, I think, Iraq, Kuwait, and places like that with the burn pits, where they were burning up a lot of things and the smoke and all that was getting in people's lungs and causing them issues. If you didn't do a claim at the time when it happened, within 10 years of you getting out of service, if you're not already registered in the VA, they're trying to eliminate you ever being able to put a claim in through the VA. Now, I have a problem with that because there's a lot of people that don't find out these ailments until years later after they've gotten out. So 10 years is kind of a little sketchy there. And they're saying that's going to save, what did they say, $29 million a year by doing that. I say this about the veterans part that I found this week that somebody posted, and then they saying it was fake and all this stuff. Pull up Project 2025 and do a search for the things that you think may impact you, so you have a better understanding of what's in there, how it's going to affect you, and whether this person should be entitled to your vote. Not just the person, but the party as a whole. Do they deserve to be put in office to enact these things that are not going to give me benefits, that are not going to help me, beneficial wise in the United States of America? Because we're not all looking for a handout. We're just looking to be able to function in this economy in the United States of America, just like everybody else. And by looking at this Project 2025, you have to really go in there and look what pertains to you, what could affect you, and vote your conscience. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Willis Cheney, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate you. That's all I'm saying. So I wanted to bring that up because I remember posting it, and there was a lot of people, I'm gonna reveal myself for a minute. I'm a comments reader. Hold on, we got a comment coming in. James Battle, Trump hates veterans and he will definitely try to implement those changes. We got to pay attention. We have to pay attention. Like he said, he likes people that didn't get killed or captured. That's a part of war. But he doesn't like people. He besmirched the name of John McCain, who's considered a war hero because he was captured and survived as a POW. But let Donald Trump say he wasn't worthy of the recognition he got because he was captured. He likes people that weren't captured. His words, not mine. But what I was going to say was, when we get into this looking at Project 2025, you have to be very aware of what's going on around you. And I said it last week and I'll say it again this week, but in different terms. I always say it in these terms. Be aware, but don't become consumed. Be aware of the information that you need, but don't consume yourself with the fact of that's all you understand and that's all you know, especially during this political process. And that's anything in life. Take the time, read, get the information you need, talk to people, look at other people's opinions. When you come across these things, ask some people that you know, how you feel about Project 2025? 9 times out of 10, if they vote Republican or on the Republican side, they'll say, oh, that's not a Donald Trump thing. That's a Heritage Foundation. It had nothing to do with him, because that's the narratives that's out there. But if you talk to people who are informed, they'll let you know Project 2025 ain't no joke. But you got to get people. And I'll tell you this, and I'll post this article so you can read it for yourself, because he quotes in this article a lot of sources that he used for the information that we're talking about. So it's just that simple. But I will touch on this real quick. And it says, when Donald Trump was giving this speech, He called it a colossal mandate. Both video and a transcript of Trump's April 21st, 2022 Florida speech show him praising the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025's forthcoming mandate for leadership plans. Around 20 minutes into Trump's speech, just after referencing the upcoming 2024 election, he said of Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts, who he said he didn't know, "Already, we have shown the power of our winning formula. Working closely with many of the great people at Heritage over the 4 incredible years that we've worked with you a lot, and we were just discussing it with Kevin, they're going to work on some other things that are going to be very exciting. I think, Kevin, maybe the most exciting of all." Then, it states, about 41 minutes into his speech, Trump called the Heritage Foundation a great group. He also referred to the Heritage Foundation's plan as a colossal mandate and said it would lay the groundwork for exactly what our movement will do in order to save America. Because our country is going to hell, the critical job of institutions such as Heritage is to lay the groundwork. And Heritage does such an incredible job at that. And I'm telling you, with Kevin and the staff, and I met so many of them now, I took pictures with among the most handsome, beautiful people I've ever seen. I didn't like that picture. If you could lose that picture, please would you, Kevin? But this is a great, no, he says, I won't do that. But this is a great group, and they're going to lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what our movement will do and what your movement will do when the American people give us a colossal mandate to save America. And that's coming. That's coming because nobody can stand what's happening right now. Only a fool or somebody that hates our country can like what's happening right now, never been in this position before, and already we know a very big part of our agenda. Now, that's a mouthful. I will post the article. But what I'm trying to get the understanding across is this. This has been in the works even before 2022, because the speech was done in 2022, mandating what they want to do in 2025 if he's reelected in 2024. This is not playing checkers. You're playing chess. And we're just getting in the game because now we're just starting to hear and starting to read. But this plan has been in effect. And I think, this is me, I think they let this agenda out, or somebody let it out too soon, because now it's becoming an issue, which is why Donald Trump is trying to distance himself, while Republicans are trying to distance themselves from it. The Heritage Foundation hasn't spoke up and said anything about Donald Trump being a part of that agenda or anything like that. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? And I want to say this, and I want people to listen real clear when I say this. I want to be very clear when I say this. While we're wondering and having people ask questions about the health of Joe Biden, while we're worried about his health, which there's a vice president elected at the same time as the president to fill in if something happens to the president, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. But while we're concentrating on Joe Biden and his health, when we know that there's somebody capable to fill that gap if something happened to him after the fact, this plan and what they're doing is in full motion. It's like a runaway freight train coming down the tracks. And rather than us concentrating on the fact of what they want to do and what their agenda is, we're worried about Joe Biden's health and whether he can do another 4 years as president. Now, we put a vice president in there in a worst case scenario. That's what that person's there for. But you also have to remember that this person that was our former president named Donald Trump was willing to have his former vice president killed because he didn't go and do his will about overturning the election. Pay attention. Pay attention. While we're worried about health, we're not worried about a convicted felon. We're not worried about a sexual predator. But we're worried about a health issue for someone who's damn near 80 years old or 80 something, which we're all going to get there eventually one day. Which one's more important to you? Melvin Jackson, good morning, sir. Hey, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for tuning in. Brian Hoodie, good morning. Good morning. Appreciate you, sir. So then this week, coming up, The Heritage Foundation has a spot reserved at the Republican National Convention. The Republican National Convention is July 15th to the 18th in Milwaukee, Wisconsin this week. I would encourage, and you do it if you want, I would encourage you guys to tune into a couple things. Just peruse through the channels, see what's going on. Because something is always said in the military and in war, in order to win the war, you have to know what your enemy is doing and what they're capable of. You have to know their capabilities. We tend to block that out. But I'm going to encourage each and every one of you to watch some of this Republican National Convention this week, just so you get an understanding of what the agenda is, what the speeches are about, who's giving the speeches, all of the above. And also make sure you tune into the Democratic National Convention, which is coming in a couple weeks after this, so you know what the agenda is, what they're saying, who the speakers are, and who's supporting. We need to be more involved in the process leading up to, rather than waiting for the results after the fact. Now, in this convention, Republican National Convention, here are the themes for this year's Republican National Convention. Monday, make America wealthy once again. Tuesday, make America safe once again. Wednesday, make America strong once again. And Thursday, make America great once again. That's the 4 days of the Republican National Convention. And those are the themes for each day. Now, the Heritage Foundation is doing something on Monday, July 15th from 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. I guess they're having like some kind of a hall. But it's called Heritage Policy Fest, Fighting for America's Future. So they're going to be at the Republican National Convention, but I guarantee they won't be at the Democratic National Convention. Just something I want to put out there. But Project 2025's Heritage Foundation donors, the people who donate the most to Project 2025's Heritage Fund Foundation, Coors, Walmart, ExxonMobil. Coors, Walmart, ExxonMobil. They want your money when you go and purchase things from them, but they're not worrying about your livelihood. Let's just be honest about it. Be aware, people. Be aware. And I'm sure people will say, well, you can find things like that on the Democratic Party too. You're right, I can. But the Democratic Party is not talking about openly taking away the freedoms that my ancestors fought so hard for. So am I going to read into, publicize, advertise, and speak freely about the problems I see with the Project 2025? You're damn right I am. You're damn right I am. I don't agree with everything that the Democratic Party does. But I don't agree with people of a certain complexion looking to take away the rights of anybody who doesn't look like them. Case in point, Project 2025. And here's the part that I think a lot of people need to pay attention to outside of people of color. Those people that are at this line, as far as where they make their money or how much money they make or their cost of living or what they make, you know what I'm talking about, near that poverty line. Everything in that Project 2025 deals with you too. So while you're out here and you paying money and buying shoes and buying flags and buying hats and all this kind of stuff to support this person, your things are going to be taken away as well. But let me get off Project 2025. Let's move on to something else that I want to touch on. As I mentioned, there's this big hoopla about whether Joe Biden should step aside. And in this big hoopla, there's this big push about whether Kamala Harris can beat Trump if she, if they don't bypass her for the nomination, if Biden was to step aside. And I found some information, and I want to give you some background on Kamala Harris, our first female vice president and woman of color. She graduated from Howard University and the University of California, Hastings, with a University of California, Hastings College of Law. In 1990, she joined the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, where she specialized in prosecuting child sexual assault cases. In 2004, Kamala Harris was elected District Attorney of San Francisco. 2010, she was elected Attorney General of California, where she oversaw the largest state justice department in the country. And then in 2017, she was sworn into the United States Senate. And we all know 2020, Vice President of the United States. I give you her accolades because I want y'all to really understand what's going on. This is another article I've seen. And it says DEI and incompetent attacks on Harris slammed as racist, sexist, and out of touch. The notion that one of the most qualified, let me say that again, the notion that one of the most qualified vice presidents' qualifications are being called to question is offensive. And I think they're not going to go unchecked. This is from Glenda Carr, president of Higher Heights for America PAC. And this is an article in the Griot. I read her accolades first because I want people to really look at the fact that Kamala Harris not only meets the criteria to be vice president, but she far exceeds it. She is the most educated vice president we've ever had in the United States of America, ever, 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 ever. The most educated, the most qualified vice president in the history of the United States of America. Did y'all hear me? But we have people not only in the Democratic Party, but people in the Republican Party, and I'm going to get on that in a minute, but let's start with the Democratic Party. Kamala Harris was selected to be Joe Biden's vice president, and they won the election. It is known by us through history, if something is to happen to the president, the sitting president at the time, the vice president fulfills that role, is moved into being the president. That's why it's called the vice president. And now there's questions that if Joe Biden steps down or he decides not to stay in the race, should Kamala Harris be the next person that we put up or that they put up to be the candidate on the Democratic side? What is the question? Let me say it again. She is the most qualified and most educated vice president that the United States has ever seen, not on the fact, and to overlook the fact that she's the first female, not to overlook the fact that she's a woman of color. Oh, stop right there. That's where the problem is. Let me say that. Stop right there. That's where the problem is. It's not that she's not qualified. It's not that she's not educated. It's not the fact that they want to, put down or minimize, who she is, her accomplishments, anything like that. It's the fact of her melanin content. Let's just call it what it is. No one in the vice president position has ever been questioned about their qualifications, never been called a DEI hire. None of these things have ever come out of the mouth. Why? Because every vice president this country has ever had was a white male. Their credentials were never questioned. Their education was never questioned. Their qualifications were never questioned. Not to the extent of Kamala Harris. So we have to dig down into the bare bones of what this is all about. Let's call it what it is. It's racism at the highest level. And to call her a DEI hire and call her incompetent, come on. Sharice Joseph, good morning. Good morning. Appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. This is what U.S. Rep. Burgess Owens from Utah. He dismissed Harris as a potential replacement for Biden, telling News Nation that America's first female, first Black female, and first South Asian female vice president is unserious and incompetent. She's a very unserious person. She has not succeeded in anything she's done, said the former NFL player turned Republican lawmaker. This is the great example of affirmative action. This is a great example of DEI. We're talking about a person who has a skin color But skin color does not denote merit, does not denote competency, and she is a very incompetent person. This is the narrative that they're using about Kamala Harris. Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. The first woman, the first person ever to be put into or elected into the vice presidency that is not a white male. And she's incompetent. And on that same day of Owens's remarks about Harris, the New York Post published an opinion article written by Charles Gasparino titled, "America May Soon Be Subjected to the Country's First DEI President, Kamala Harris." In it, the conservative blogger called the sitting vice president an irrepressibly fatuous politician and who may become the leader of the free world because the Democratic Party is unable to break its DEI stranglehold. I pause because I want y'all to soak that in a little bit more. And we shouldn't be surprised. Let's just be honest. We should not be surprised that this is going on because they did the same thing to former President Barack Obama. He's not qualified. He's this. They called him a terrorist because of his father's background and being, half African. All the different narratives we remember that they brought up about President Barack Obama. They're flipping now towards Kamala Harris. And this is where I have a problem with the Democratic Party right now. Because the bottom line is, if, and I'm not saying he should, but if Joe Biden was to choose to step aside, the successor to run and get the nomination for the Democratic Party, I believe would be the vice president, the sitting vice president. And when the Democratic Party has different, first they're arguing about whether he should step aside. Then they're arguing if he does step aside, who should be put in place. All these narratives around who should be put in place without concentrating on the fact of, let's run on President Joe Biden's record, what he's done, what he has done, and let's roll with that on what he's done over the last 4 years, as well as what he did as vice president, as well as what he did when he was a senator. Let's roll all these things up to show he's qualified. Let's roll all these things up about Kamala Harris's background, her education, and all these. Let's roll these things up to show when you want a ticket that can run this United States of America, they are it, not the other choice. But we're concentrating on whether he's too old while they're putting plans to implement Project 2025. We're arguing, the Democratic Party is arguing about whether Kamala Harris should be the presumptive person to step in if Joe Biden steps aside, while they're looking for ways to militarize the military to do things in this country that have never been done. The Democratic Party is concentrating on who, what, when, where, and why, while the other party is concentrating on what day we're going to actually start implementing these things and who's going to be in charge of it. What are we doing? What are we doing? And then there's a narrative out there where they're trying to distance Donald Trump from the Project 2025. And as I read to you, it's cut and dry. He did a speech at the Heritage Foundation that they took down off of YouTube because they didn't want you to see it. They didn't want you to hear him agreeing with them and him saying that the plan was a mandate on what they're going to do going forward. But we're concentrating on Joe Biden's age and whether Kamala Harris is a DEI hire or if she's qualified to step in to be president if Joe Biden decides to step aside. Can I vote? www.nass.org. Can I vote? Vet the vote. You can go to either one of them websites. Make sure you register to vote, because I'm going to go out on a limb and say this, and we've heard this many times. This is one of the most consequential votes you'll ever do, you'll ever participate in. Our democracy is in trouble. Our democracy is in trouble because we choose not to play. A lot of people, not just African Americans and blacks. I mean, let's be real now. There's a lot of people that do not want to play in the process, but then are upset on the outcome of the process. Talk to these young folks as well. Those that are eligible to vote for the first time this year. Don't just tell them because their parents are Democrats or Republicans. Guide them into finding the information they need to find so they can make a conscious judgment for themselves on which way they're going to vote. And I say that because there are people in our community, and I'm going to talk to the African American Black community for a minute. We've seen the Blacks for Trump at these rallies and, the barbershop talks and cognac cigars and Congress and all these different things that I've reported on, we've talked about. But right now, as you watch me this morning, there is someone in your circle that is just like them. There is someone in your circle. Let's just be honest. Let's cut to the chase here. There's someone in your circle, each of our circles. And when I say this, you probably already know who it is because you've had these conversations. That feels the same way that those Blacks for Trump feel. But they're not voicing it to you because they don't want you to know. But their mindset, their actions, behind the scenes, what they're doing, they're all in on Trump. I've said this and I'll say it again. Those same people that I'm talking about have people in their family or associates that they have that have been convicted of a crime, whether it's drug possession, anything like that, or as a felon or something in their family or a friend of theirs, associate, that they have distanced themselves from because of the fact that they're a felon or a criminal or been convicted of something, served some time. They stay their distance away from them. But these same people in our community who distance themselves from their families, from their long childhood friends, are willing to go to the polls and put a convicted felon in the White House because they feel that he has their best interest at hand. Now I ask you, make it make sense. Make it make sense. You will give him the benefit of the doubt as a convicted felon because of his complexion. But that person that looks just like you, that you grew up with, that you hung with, that you did dirt with when you were young, all the different things, you ate dirt, ate mud pies, played sports, whatever. You won't even talk to him because you're more concerned about being guilty by association with him than you are voting a death certificate for those that look like you, your family, your friends, all because you're looking at the monetary value of what may happen rather than the long-term effects of how it's going to affect those you say you love long-term. Choose wisely. Do your research and call those people out. Call those people out. When you hear them talk that stuff, call them out. Not just to argue, but bring facts to the table. That's something we don't do. We don't bring facts when we want to have these conversations. Bring facts. Not just emotionally. Bring facts. Because I think these people need to be called out at the time that they're making these bullshit You know what I'm saying? He's not this, he's not that, whatever. Come on. Come on. Come on. I have never, in my 58 years, seen so many people that look like me give someone like that this much of a benefit of the doubt. In my 58 years, no matter what he says, no matter what he's done, you look at the Central Park Five, you look at the redlining, you look at everything that this man has done to us as people. May not be you directly, but people that look like you just because they look like you. And we have people that look like us giving this man the benefit of the doubt that he's not who they say he is, but they're not basing everything off the fact of he has shown us who he is. And he still gets the benefit of the doubt. Make it make sense. Reggie P. good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. Make it make sense. Because I can't. At this point, I can't. All I can do is give you the information. What you do with it, totally up to you. Totally up to you. Let's go. Mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and soul. The year 2024, our main concentration this year has been the common denominator, which is health. The common denominator is health this year in 2024. And we're talking about your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, your financial health, and your relationship health. And today, we're going to talk about relationships. Relationships matter. Relationships matter. And the reason I want to talk about relationships is I've seen this thing the other day, and it just came full circle for me yesterday, but I'll get into that in a minute. But the article I've seen, it said relationships matter, and there's 7 main components to healthy relationships and what makes them matter and stand strong. Number 1 is communication. Number 2 is trust. Number 3 is respect. Number 4 is loyalty. Number 5 is appreciation. Number 6 is forgiveness. And number 7 is openness. And when we talk about relationships, good morning, Trees Powder Bay, good morning, good morning. Thank you, Auntie, love you. Thanks for tuning in. But when we talk about relationships, I think a lot of times we only look at relationships as who we're either married to, dating, or otherwise. We don't look at our friendships in the big scope of things as relationships. And the reason I want to talk about this today is because I'm just going to be straight up now. I had some people that came in town for Summer League, NBA Summer League. So we met up at the game yesterday. Now, mind you, one of my buddies, I see him on and off and everything, lives in LA. Not going to put names out there. I'm just going to put their demographic, where they at, where they live and all that. So one of my buddies lives in LA. So whenever he comes to town, he hits me up. We hang out, have a drink or something, catch up, do whatever we do. Now, mind you, I met this brother in the year of 2000, 2001. We worked George Bush's inauguration together. He was Navy. I was an Air Force guy. We met through work. And he always tells people that I was in charge, called me the HNIC and everything like that. But he always calls that, but he worked for me, worked not directly, but, in that capacity. But we grew a relationship through that, a friendship, a bond. And we've been tight ever since. But then the other brother that was here, him and some buddies that he knew from the military and everything, and his son-in-law, I'm not going to give names, but they came out too as well. And I haven't seen this brother since since 19, since December 2014, the last time I seen this brother. And I worked for him at a job when I was in DC and back in Baltimore with the Social Security Administration for a brief amount of time. And I'm talking about from August of 2014 until December of 2014. That's how long we knew each other. But in that time, we grew a bond. And when I seen him yesterday, we talked occasionally on the phone, different times and everything, but we haven't seen each other. But when we seen each other yesterday, it was like I seen one of my brothers. Shout out Terrence and Dwayne. It was like I seen one of my brothers. I bring up relationships matter because a lot of times we take our brothers and our relationships for granted. And when I say brothers, I'm talking about our friends as brothers, that brotherhood, that bond that we create and that we have. And seeing those two brothers yesterday made me realize that the relationships that we have matter. I had conversations with my buddy from LA. I had conversations with my buddy that I worked with. And in those conversations, they were in-depth conversations. They were conversations that you reveal a lot of things about you and what's been going on with you to them because there's a trust factor. The communication comes in because there's trust. There's a certain amount of respect. There's the loyalty factor. All the things I just mentioned, those 7 factors, the forgiveness, the openness, all these things in those relationships, what it helps us to do is become full as far as being the man or the woman that you want to become. One thing that I recognized yesterday when seeing them, spending time with them, talking, catching up, mind you, we were watching basketball games, but later on we went and we had some drinks and had, smoked a couple cigars and everything, which I don't do, but I do it to interact with my people. But we sat down and we had conversations, man. And the brothers that were with my one friend are brothers to me now. I embrace them like I embrace him, because one thing that I've learned, if he trusts them enough to call them friends, then I do too. I do too. I don't have to know them for a long period of time, but if he trusts them, if he has those 7 components in his relationship with them, then I can have them as well. Now, you may not see eye to eye with everybody's friends. Let's just be honest here. You may not see eye to eye with everybody's friends who are friends with you. But you have to take into account if they have trust in that person as a friend, you may not agree with their personality, everything, but you got to know that there's some type of loyalty between them for him to even introduce him to you because he's a friend of yours. In our relationships, and the reason I bring this up today and what we talked about with the 2025 and everything like that, Project 2025 and the Kamala Harris, this is where these relationships come into play. The hard conversations is where these relationships are going to be either made or broken. Let's just be real. At this time, when you start talking, they always say you shouldn't talk politics and religion. Throw that out the window. Throw it out the window. At this time in our lives and the things we've seen, the things we've dealt with, our experiences, everything, throw all that out the window and have a conversation. We need to be honest with each other. If I'm going to call you a friend, I should be able to tell you my feelings about anything and everything. My openness or whatever we want to communicate about should be able to be honest and open. I shouldn't have to pull back on certain things. Now, mind you, there's certain things that you'll tell one friend that you won't tell another friend that you sure won't tell one friend. But when it comes to where we're at this point in the United States of America, in this election coming up, we got to be honest, not only with ourselves, but with our brethren and sisters. The females out there, I call you my sisters. Y'all need to be doing the same thing. Each and every woman in the United States of America should be offended, in my opinion, should be offended about how they talk about Kamala Harris, about how they talk about Ketanji Brown Jackson. As a woman, you should be offended. Not only because you're talking about a woman of color, but the way they denigrate, minimize everything about them as a woman. The women that are in these positions are more than qualified. More than qualified. But the conversations need to be had amongst us, our brothers, our sisters, in our relationships about what we see and what actions we're going to take if and when this election is over, depending on who gets into office and how we're going to move forward. Relationships matter. Communication, trust, respect, loyalty, appreciation, forgiveness, openness. If you don't have those 7 traits involved in your relationships, you need to reevaluate. If you can't communicate with somebody openly, or if you don't trust someone, if you don't have these 7 traits with people that you interact with that you consider a friend in your relationships or you have relationships with, you probably need to start reevaluating who you have in your circle and start minimizing. Start minimizing. Because one thing I know for sure, each and every one of us have had relationships where people have stabbed us in the back. And a lot of times what we do, because we call them a friend, we give them the benefit of the doubt. And something I've always said is when a family member does something to hurt you, we will cut them off sooner than we will a friend who does something to hurt you. And in my mentality is the reason we cut family off is because they should know better. A friend, we give the benefit of the doubt. But they both did the same thing. Reevaluate how you're dealing with people, what you're doing with people, and your relationships across the board. Not only your friendships, but who you're married to, who you're dating. You need to know all these things and put them out on the table, because trust, and being able to communicate with that person is going to make or break the relationship for the long term. For the long term. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up for the day. I know it's a little shorter than I normally go. It's only a couple minutes shorter, but I won't be on next week. Let me just put that out there. I got a previous engagement. I got to go take care of some business somewhere else, but I'll be back the following week. So next week I won't be on. I'll try to get something on, put something in the play, in the rotation for y'all to look at and everything. But, hey, everything we talked about today, we're dealing with a serious time right now. A lot of people don't want to look at it that way, but we're in a serious time right now because there's a lot of things that are trying to be enacted that are trying to take us back to the 60s. And everyone knows in the 60s, we were fighting for civil rights during the 60s and even before that. But rather than looking to go forward, they're looking to go back and put in the policies that were in place then. They're not calling it Jim Crow. They're calling it Project 2025. 900 pages worth. You read it, you be the judge. I'm going to keep giving you the information. What you choose to do with it is up to you. But I will come on here every Saturday morning that I'm supposed to, and I'm available to put the information out there. Hopefully you receive it, take it, read up on it, and figure it out for yourself. As I always say, I'm not the end all to be all, but I am here to inform. I'm here to inform, not convince, not sway, none of those things. I'm here to give you information that is going to help you make conscious decisions when you decide what you want to do. But I want to give you the information so when you do go to make that decision, you have what you need, the tools in your toolbox to know that the decision you're making is the right decision. That's it. That's it. September. Let me just put this out here now. September, be 12 years on the air. I got something big planned for this. I will let you know we're going to have an anniversary show, and there's some big announcements coming along with that. Some revamping, some things going to be done differently. But 12 years in the making for the Speak on the Show comes September. Those 12 years don't flew by, but we've been doing this for 12 years. Hopefully everybody's enjoyed it for this 12 years. And one thing going into the next year 13, it's time to pick up the viewership. It's time to start getting the message out to people and letting them know what we're doing here on the Speak on the Show. And it's not only because of me and the camera and the microphone, it's for all of you to chime in every week. It's for all of you to follow, comment. Even if you don't comment, if you're viewing and you're watching and you're regurgitating some of the information you got, or you're going out here and you're getting the books and reading the articles on my page and everything, then you're a part of this. You're part of this as well. So it's not just me. This is a whole process for anybody and everybody out there. And I appreciate the support up to this point and the continued support you will give me. Keep tuning in. We got big things coming. We're branching out. We're doing some things. Stay tuned. All I can do is tell you to stay tuned. Stay tuned. We got big things coming. As I always say before I sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely, keep your faith in God. Keep your faith in God. Keep your faith in God. He's got you. And I'm out. I'll see y'all again in 2 weeks. Holla. Peace.